computer?
No.
No.
No, I'm trying to figure out how this works.
Well, when I have shared screen, it comes up like this. So 13.3. And if I turn off stop share, then you can see me again. Okay.
Yeah.
So Beatrice, what is scanning?
Looking for some keywords.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, specific words and concepts and things.
Should you say, okay, you can scan for the next 2 days, or should we set what should we do in this?
Time limit.
Yes.
Time limit.
It's very easy because I go around. Yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
it's
You have to say
there,
1 minute, and you've got to find everything about
to find these. Yeah.
certain dates or times or something. Okay. So the idea of skimming is for them, if they're doing an IELTS test, for example, to read quickly what they need to understand and then get the gist of it, and then go back and then read, once they've read the questions, the details. To make them read carefully second time. But first time, just get the gist of where things are, and then they can come back and have more of an idea what they're looking for. And anyone know what this SQ3R means? Yeah, the S stands for Susanna knows. Susanna. So S is for survey, yes. Q is for question. And the 3 R's. So first time read, which I say is a skimming read. And then second, they say read aloud. Sometimes it helps to read aloud. For me, it does. I'm an audio learner. Alyssa as well, maybe. Yeah. So read aloud the questions and then recite in your own words the question so you understand it, and then go back and read a second time looking for those questions. And the third R, because there's 3 R's, is this one, which is to review your answers. That's how they recommend. If you have a reading text, go through the survey, question, read, recite, R method. So survey is to skim through, which we talked about. Question is to ask questions, so to get them to predict what they think the questions might be about. Or if there are questions, just look at those questions. Usually you know, don't you? It's always dates, times, things like that. Those sort of questions pop up. And read quickly, but looking for the main points. And then recall, write down the main points. Well, that's actually, that R says recall. This one says recite. So it depends which site you go to. So recall or recite, you could say. Write down the main points and important facts. So recite it means sort of think about it in your own words. And then review it. So if you've got questions to answer, you can review it. Yeah. Okay, so this SQ3 method of reading and note-taking is still prompted by educationalists today. What difficulties, if any, do you think students might have? Anyone? Alyssa? So for Asian students, or any? I just know about Asians, that's why I always say Asians.
Yeah, they have difficulty with the process itself. Like if they don't get the gist, they don't understand. So yeah.
Yeah, so they might want to not skim but read through and every single word, stop, pull out their mobile phone, check the meaning, get stuck down on little details. Okay, so how can we identify the most relevant sections or headings, keywords? So apart from coping with the volume of reading, what else can we do to help them? So if they're reading too slowly, so for example, those Japanese students that stop and check every word, what can we do?
Yeah, they will never finish reading a text and they will be stuck.
Tell them there's a time limit. Don't get stuck down. That does go into short-term memory. We don't want to, just something we're learning now. We need to go over it quickly so we can find out the gist of the overall meaning and then come back and look for details when we have the questions. So describe an activity that we could implement in an EAP class for developing the skill of identifying the main ideas for paragraphs. Once again, we're practicing skimming, so we'd skim through the paragraph. So if they come across the main topic? What can they do to help themselves learn what the topic is, to understand it? Susanna? Usually I have the answers circled, so you should be. So if they understand.
Oh, give
topic,
synonyms.
yeah, synonyms, yeah. So they can, if they paraphrase it and put it in their own words, then they're more likely to understand it. So find the main topic or topics in the paragraph and then give synonyms for whatever the main topic is or subject. Yeah, and then so predictions that they make about the text and what was actually in the text. So if you're given a subject like tourism in Australia, predict what it might be about before they actually read it. Will help them to learn it as well. That's one tip.
Yeah.
So paraphrase it, and before you give it, talk about it so they can predict what it will be about. Yeah, everyone okay? So,
Yeah.
the activities we could do. So write a task description that incorporates the activity you have outlined in the response to the previous task. So the following is a list of main ideas from paragraphs that are part of the journal article on ethical management. In the column next to the main idea, you are required to write a few sentences outlining the sort of information you would expect to read about in the paragraph. In the next column, write as many synonyms as you can think of for each main idea. So what you expect you might read, and the next one, the main ideas, but you will paraphrase in your own words. Well, synonyms are similar words to whatever word has come up. Your responses will be discussed with the whole class before moving on to the next task. So you are now required to read through the text that has just been handed to you, which is this one down here. And as you read, see how your ideas aligned with those in the text. Also highlight any of the synonyms you had written down in response to the first part of the task that actually appear in the text. So let's see. So that's the text here. Create an ethical organisational climate in meeting the ethical challenges of leadership. Da, 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 da. So it's all referenced there as well. So they've got in different colours. So green are ellipsis, so like others, referencing sort of, it's like sort of saying the same person's name, we say he or she. So the pronouns in that colour. Substitution in red colour. So instead of saying what the whole behaviour is, it's destructive behaviours. Conjunction, like and, because, therefore. So in your assignment, you've got to find a text similar to this and write about putting in pronouns, ellipses, substitutions, conjunctions, like that. Yeah. And it's got to be 250 words or under, around about that. Almost like an IELTS speaking task. Part 2. The reading, isn't it? Writing task. Where does it say? I thought it said 250 words, and I'm somewhere or other. Well, it just says a short academic text. Doesn't say 250 words, but I think maybe that's probably under 250. It's got a list. And the next part down here, that's continued. So I think this is continued on. So it's because like the conjunctions in the greeny colour, and then yeah, so pronouns in the purple colour. So pink, ethical, that's up here. So the pink is lexis, antonyms used to add emphasis and repetition. So I can't really help you with it. You just got to make something like that.
Can you send us this example? Because like I found something, but I found it hard to like connect all of these things to the cohesive devices. So I don't really need how to refer all of the things that I found.
Okay. Well,
Thank you.
this that we're looking at right now, I sent just before, but Alyssa, you had trouble picking it up. Your phone doesn't allow you to pick up WhatsApp, right?
Yeah, but Sue
Okay,
sent
so I'll
it
email
to
it to
me.
you.
So, yeah.
Yeah, because I sent this, actually what we're looking through now, I've sent here.
Ah,
but I'll email it
perfect.
to you.
Okay.
But if you
Okay.
can't get WhatsApp, I
Awesome.
can email it.
Oh,
But that's okay. Susanna did it for me before. So
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
thank
good.
you so much.
So open up this again.
Thanks.
That's okay. Thank you, Susanna.
you're welcome.
Mhm.
So then that bit you just have to work out yourself. And you've got to find task words, content words, and limiting words. So that must be the next section. It's very encompassing, lots here. So task words and content words and limiting words. Anyone tell me? So what is a task word? For example, yeah,
Discuss.
yeah, that's right. So like here, to analyze, argue, describe, that's a task word, which tells you the action you need to perform. What is a content word?
What's the topic about?
The
That's right,
topic.
topic, yep. And limiting words. So, well, up here I thought it said 250 words, but actually it doesn't say. It just says a short text, for example. But limiting would be how much, how little. So to make it a manageable working task. Yeah. Okay, so those ones there, it's on the sheet that you've got. So Jay says, write a glossary, which means like a define, have the dictionary meanings for these terms. So we know analyze. So if you're analysing something, you're examining the structure of a topic, its components and the relationship between these components and studying their importance. So argue, you usually have to say both sides when you argue. Persuasive essay could be one side, but to argue is just this and this.
Yeah.
You have to give both sides for something you believe in. Compare and contrast, present the similarities and differences between two or more ideas, events or interpretations, and describe, give a detailed account of the characteristics of a subject in a logical sequence. So first, second, third, what happened, describing what happened. A bit like a narration. That's a story in the past, but saying what happened. And discuss, examine a subject by argument or debate, for example, by going into the pros and cons, giving the details and explaining the argument for and against. So discuss is in more detail, if you ask me, compared to argue. Looking at both sides again. But argue would be, yeah. Well, argue a point could be the same as just a persuasive essay then. So I think maybe same as persuasive essay. Evaluate, appraise, assess, make a judgment referring to the opinions of experts and explaining advantages and disadvantages. Explain, make the meaning clear, intelligible. This can be achieved by giving why, how to explain the situation. And prove, provide evidence that supports the point of view you are presenting. And summarize, to give a brief account or abridgment of a subject, including the main ideas and omitting details. So no details, nothing too much, just a summary, just to summarize. Good. Okay, so K, referring to section 4.5, research skills in your textbook. My book, I let Nelson borrow, so I only got a photocopied version. 4.3, 4.4. So 4.5, so it's that in the book about research skills, referring to that. Read the following assignment task on a social topic and write a list of questions that you could discuss with your class that would help them to unpack, which means understand, before writing their assignment. This is a site, did anyone go to? Because on this site there's questions, you've got to tick true or false, saying about how they do things in Western countries, in the UK. So compare your answers to find any differences between assignment writing in your country and the UK.
Yeah.
So it's just telling you, it's showing you how to interpret questions. So being able to demonstrate skills in critical analysis is important in all university courses in the UK. Students studying science subjects will be need to analyse data and the results of experiments to produce findings and draw conclusions. So if you go to this website, it's a little activity 1 down to activity 10 or so. And these are the answers that I copied and pasted. So talking about how to write essays and understanding the actual assignments when they say to explore and illustrate. Explore requires the student to investigate similarities and differences. Bonus points may be made if you give supported from case studies. So that sort of thing. They're just saying how they do it in, well, Western countries. And then you have the task here, which is tourism is becoming increasingly important as a source of revenue in many countries, but its disadvantages should not be overlooked. Discuss. So as a teacher, you would, if you were giving this, you'd give them some questions to help them think about it. So tourism is becoming increasingly important. So you'd ask, there are some disadvantages. So you could ask, so what are some disadvantages? So this is just having them think about, to brainstorm ideas. So you ask these questions and then they'll list some disadvantages, you know, pollution and too many people using our facilities, resources, and what impact do these disadvantages have on the country the tourists are visiting. Yeah. So lack of food, people using the resources that you have, and why is it important to develop revenue sources? So they need revenue, the country needs some money coming in, obviously, you know, to pay for infrastructure and whatnot. So how do the advantages of increased revenue compare to the disadvantages of increased tourism? And then, so personal opinion. So when you say discuss, you can give your own opinion. So basically you think of questions like that. So you just write, I think with this one here, your assignment, you have to think of questions to ask. So you're given this, aren't you, in your assignment, that little bit there, and you have to give the questions. So that's some questions you can give. I should have printed out the assignment. I can't remember what your one says. And have them have their own opinion. So then you have to identify the key words, which is the task words discuss, content words tourism, disadvantages, and limiting words would be so because it says should not be overlooked. So disadvantages should not be overlooked. So you understand you have to talk about the disadvantages. So indicate that disadvantages need to be included. So it's limited to include the advantages and disadvantages. Yep. And then M, assuming your class has internet access, design activity to develop students' ability to locate appropriate internet sites as sources of academic information. So you could get them to find 5 different websites on this topic. And if they've got a view, well, it's discussing, so you look at both sides, advantages and disadvantages. And have that included in the